All right, y'all. Welcome back to TMA with Nick Hamilton here on Sirius XM Slam Radio 145. Make sure you hit me up on all things social media at Nick Hamilton LA. I got a special guest in the house. This man is the CEO, the founder, and content creator of These Urban Times, one of the flyest, network sites out here in the blogosphere, in the web sphere, whatever you want to call it. This man does it all. He's one of the hardest working journalists out here. Gets all the great information to you. Does a great job. I don't know when this man sleeps. I don't know if he sleeps at all, but we'll find that out in more. Please help me welcome from These Urban Times, Terrell Thomas. What's going on, Terrell? How you doing, man?
Hey, Nick, how you doing today, sir? Great to be sitting down and talking sports with you as always. I appreciate you having me on. I love everything you're doing on the West Coast and all across America. So it's great to sit down and talk some sports with you, sir.
Hey, I appreciate that, man. I see what you're doing out there in the South and on the East and throughout the nation, man. You definitely causing ripple effects, man. So, salute to you as well, man. Thank you for joining me here on the program. So I want to get right into it. We had a slew for the wild card games and football games over the course of the weekend on Saturday and Sunday. Thank you to the NFL for having 3 games every day of the weekend
Yeah, that
to
was
keep us company throughout what's going on. To me, I think the biggest story outside of the national championship would be the Steelers and the Browns game that was featured on Sunday. That was a truly, for some, a surprise. For many of us that paid attention, not really. The Steelers started out 11-0. I always said they were probably the worst 11-0 team I've ever seen. They end up finishing their season at 1-5, including Sunday's loss against Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns. What did you make of that game? Were you surprised at the score? Because when I looked up, it was 28-0. They were getting the Krispy Kreme award before halftime. What did you see?
I was not surprised with the results. However, I was surprised with the score. When I did my predictions for the game to take place this past weekend, I had the Cleveland Browns beating the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I had it being a much closer game. I had 20-17. I thought it was going to be something more like a late field goal in the fourth quarter to kind of give Cleveland the edge. But as you mentioned, watching the Steelers for the past few weeks, I never believed in them, quite honestly. I never believed in them even when they were going undefeated. I thought that they took advantage of their situation. Granted, everyone was dealing with COVID and with health protocols, so I don't want to say that it was a result of COVID, because everyone across the league was dealing with it. But just something about that 11-0 seemed a little fraudulent to me. I didn't believe in it. It didn't seem like a complete team. And as you mentioned, once again, I think towards the end of the season, when teams really started to buckle down and make their playoff pushes, we were able to see that Pittsburgh wasn't that typical Pittsburgh steel curtain, heavy defense, heavy run game that we've come to know over the past few years.
Yeah, I said the Pittsburgh Steelers were monopoly money.
Like that.
They were not believable. If you outside of Pittsburgh, Steeler Nation, I didn't think this team was worth at the price that they were advertised. And they have a lot of problems now. They have a lot of questions. You look at Mike Tomlin, his play calling on 4th and 1 at midfield, and decided, you know what, I'm going to punt it when you're already trailing. No guts, no glory. That's what it seemed like. And I think Mike Tomlin is a phenomenal coach. I mean, he's the only coach that has not had a losing season since his tenure, which is amazing to me. But still does not warrant criticism when it comes to his coaching style. And then I look at Marquise Pouncey. You look at Big Ben. They both have 1 year left on their deals. Juju Smith-Schuster is now a free agent. Do they bring him back? What do you see happening moving forward with the Pittsburgh Steelers?
It's pretty funny because around week 13 or 14, when it appeared that the New York Jets would have a number 1 overall pick, I was kind of saying that the Steelers should try to make a trade in the offseason for Sam Darnold. I definitely feel as though they do need a younger presence from the quarterback position in the locker room. Big Ben has been phenomenal in his career, but humbly, in my opinion, I believe those days are over. Those days are over. We saw he looked like a statue sitting back in that pocket. He couldn't really move. On game day, he threw, I believe, for over 500 yards during the game on Sunday, but 4 interceptions and just not being able to really lead his team down the field when they needed. It said a whole lot to me about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Juju, I'm kind of up in the air about. I do feel as though Pittsburgh also has a lot of weapons at the wide receiver position. We've seen what Claypool has done this season. I think he's a dominant number one receiver if given the opportunity. So it may be time for Juju to pack up and take his TikTok dances elsewhere. He can still be serviceable. I think Juju is an underrated talent. I do think some of the off the field things are just nothing bad, but just we hear a lot of attention because he's dancing on logos and things. I think people get sidetracked and they don't realize how good of a wide receiver he is. Of course, when Antonio Brown left, folks were saying Juju's not the number one. Attention will be taken off of him. But I think if you put Juju in the right situation, he can definitely excel again. So as you mentioned, a lot of questions in Pittsburgh, but they're no strangers to retooling quickly. So I think a younger quarterback, possibly once again trading for a quarterback who's already slightly seasoned, bringing him into the Steelers locker room could be great, and we could see them right back in the mix.
Yeah, I like that idea about trading for Sam Darnold. I think that might be an upgrade for them, especially like you said. Sometimes I think Sam Darnold may need to change the scenery somewhere that's not as much pressure as the New York market likes to be. So I think that might be an option for him. When you look at the Cleveland Browns and Baker Mayfield, I've always liked Baker Mayfield. I like his attitude. People like to harp on him as far as having too many commercials, call him Peyton Manning Jr. Every time you turn around, he got commercials up at Wazoo, which he's supposed to. That's the nature of the business, but it doesn't take anything away from his on the field play. And I think he played phenomenal in the last 4 games leading up into the playoff. He's been playing really, really well, especially not having OBJ as his other, receiver. So the first playoff win since 1994. I mean, Baker was so young, he don't even remember holding a football. That was the last time Browns won a playoff game. What does that say for the Cleveland Browns moving forward? And what do you see them against the Kansas City Chiefs now?
I was extremely happy for Cleveland Browns fans. The dog pound, as you mentioned, they haven't won a playoff game since '94, and although they've been having losing season after losing season after losing season, one of the most dedicated and loyal fan bases in all of sports, just not the NFL. So congratulations to the Cleveland Browns on achieving that. Cleveland has impressed me throughout the year, though. I'm also with you on. I'm a fan of Baker Mayfield. I'm more a fan of his grit and his grind. I've seen a lot of development in his game over the past 2 seasons, and I think with having Coach Stefanski as their head coach now, I think that helped his game tremendously. I also think folks don't get a chance or really pay attention to that is a very, very, very talented roster on offense and defense. A lot of young players who are now coming into their own. So they can make some noise. However, I think Kansas City is just a different beast. I think Kansas City is a different beast. Now, to say that if there is a team that could go into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs, I think that we should pay attention to the Browns because they have 2 dynamic running backs in Kareem Hunt, who formerly played for the Chiefs. So he knows that system and knows what they want to do very well. And also Nick Chubb. So if you want to run that ground and pound game and kind of keep the ball away from Patrick Mahomes, I think the Browns, they have a great opportunity in doing so. I still like the Chiefs. I like the Chiefs in that matchup, but I think it'll be a lot closer than what people believe. I believe it's about a 10-point spread right now. The Chiefs are 10-point underdogs, but the Browns are 10-point underdogs, but I think they'll make it a game. I think they will make it a game this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, I mean, you bring in valid points. I think, with the running game, the Chiefs defense is not the best defense in the league. So they have issues, they have holes, they have gaps. So it's going to be very interesting, but I'm going to have to say it. Turn out the lights. The Cleveland party's over. Going to Arrowhead, baby. It's a different beast. Pat Mahomes has shown what he can do. Even look at the Texans game when he was down 24, I think it was 24-0 or something to that degree, and he came back and opened up a fresh can of whoop ass on them. So I think it's going to be it's going to be a Kansas City result. But speaking of the best defense, to me, I think that people are not really paying attention to is the Los Angeles Rams, and that defense led by Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, and Jalen Ramsey, and those guys. Have done a phenomenal job. I know they were the underdogs going up into Seattle against Russell Wilson, a team they face now for the 3rd time in this season. And let me tell you something. There was a lot of questions about who's going to be under center and who was going to be available on the offensive end, but there were no questions about that defense. And what did you see in that game, and how far do you think this Rams team could go, especially now they're going to face the Green Bay Packers?
I actually, believe it or not, I thought that Seattle was going to come out with the victory in that game. For some reason, I thought the Seahawks just had the Rams number. I was very, very impressed with what Coach McVay had the game plan Coach McVay had set out for his team. As you mentioned, that defense is phenomenal. I'm a Florida State fan, love Florida State. Jalen Ramsey's been doing his thing in the secondary since being added to the Rams. And as you mentioned, with a player like Aaron Donald, possibly and one of the greatest defensive players of this generation, one of the greatest defensive players that we've ever seen. You can never count those cats out. So I was very impressed on what the Rams did. I expected to see a slightly more from their offense. I was impressed with Cam Akers, another Seminole who turned up, and I think I think Rams fans will now get to see the best of Cam Akers. I think the Cam Akers that a lot of people were looking to see throughout the season. So I honestly think the Rams are the most dangerous team remaining in the postseason.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, you said the explosiveness of Cam Akers, but also to the return of Andrew Whitworth, who I think was huge for that O-line, for him to be able to open up those holes and create those gaps. And for such a young guy, Cam Akers is such a patient and persistent runner. And I think that goes that gets thrown under the blanket sometimes, where we don't give him his flowers for being that persistent and being that patient to be such a rookie running back. And especially him performing in his very first playoff ever, and still a hostile environment, not with the 12th man obviously in attendance, but Seattle's never an easy place to play. And now they have a bigger challenge in Green Bay, facing against to me, the MVP of the league, and Aaron Rodgers in that Green Bay offense. But damn it, that Green Bay offense has never seen a defense like the Los Angeles Rams. I had a chance to speak with Sean McVay on Sunday, and he was just letting us know that, hey, Cooper Kupp does have bursitis of the knee. He's going to be listed as day-to-day. But there was an injury that occurred in the Seattle game with Aaron Donald with his rib, but he's listed as day-to-day. He said Aaron is ready to practice this week. They're going to, continue to monitor him throughout the week, make sure he's right, especially going into that cold climate, because, man, breathing when you got a rib injury is no joke. And then they're going to be looking at, obviously John Wolford, who got a neck stinger. Fortunately, he wasn't put in concussion protocol, so he'll be available this week in practice. Golf is going to be ready, but, in that cold weather, having those pins in that thumb, buddy, you're going to feel the cold weather, even if it ain't snowing. And McVay also said they're going to add a third quarterback to the roster just in case, unlike they did the previous week. So that should be interesting to see how that comes about. But I want to talk a little bit about your end in the ATL, you being the king of the ATL when it comes to what's going on in the world of sports and entertainment. The Atlanta Falcons, now we know they're going to draft at the 4th spot, I believe, in the NFL draft this year. There are a lot of question marks. Arthur Blank came out and said, you know what? Everybody's expendable. Matty Ice, Julio Jones, everybody's expendable. That's what it takes to turn this franchise around. They're obviously looking for a new head coach along with the new general manager. Have you heard anything as far as what is the latest going on with the Atlanta Falcons and their coaching and general manager search?
Well, I know they've been doing their due diligence and conducting virtual interviews for both positions, for the general manager spot and the head coaching position. But that's still currently up in the air. As you mentioned, Arthur Blank has come out. He was very disappointed in the Falcons' results this season. Of course, earlier in the season, former Falcons head coach Dan Quinn was fired. They had interim coach Raheem Morris serving in for, I say, maybe about 10 games, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, about 10 games in the season. He also interviewed for the position. I don't believe that he will get it. I think the Falcons are looking to move in the direction of a younger coach, more creative offense. Me personally, I would love to see Louis Riddick here from the GM perspective. Of course, for those who don't know who he is, gentleman that does NFL analyst. He's an NFL analyst on ESPN. He's also been a former executive in the NFL. He seems like a cat that would be perfect to come down here in Atlanta and shake things up. I would also, if I was the Falcons, me personally, for every position, every coaching position that's open, I want Eric Bieniemy to get the job. So I've been saying the Falcons should look at Bieniemy. News broke on Monday about the Philadelphia Eagles and Doug Peterson being fired. So I've already heard some speculations that the Falcons want to talk to Peterson and see what's on his mind and see if he has any interest in coming in here. So that'll be something to look out for as well. But the Falcons, they're going in a new direction. They'll have a couple dollars to spend, not much in salary cap because of the two players that you mentioned in Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. So they're going to have to get younger via the draft. So it is a new day for the Falcons franchise, and I'm very interested to see the direction in which they want to go. But Arthur Blank is still making his decisions on who he'll have as the new lead man here for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I would love to see Louis Riddick be a GM for the Falcons. I think he checks off a lot of boxes, and also too, Atlanta being a black city and you have a black general manager. I think that speaks volumes to the need that has been going on as far as the lack of opportunities for black and minority upper management positions, as well as coaches and coordinators. So I think that's a good one. I do like. I like Robert Salah. I would love to see Robert Salah probably have that job in Atlanta.
Right there. I like that. I like that. That's good.
Doug Peterson wouldn't be bad either because he's a Super Bowl winning coach. Yeah, he's had some bad years. I mean, but at the same time, I do think sometimes a change of scenery could be the difference maker. But what do you think about Justin Fields being drafted by the Falcons? Because that's something I thought about.
I love that. I've been kind of advocating for that here as well. Justin Fields is a Georgia boy, or he's a Georgia kid. He grew up from right outside of the Atlanta area. He also started his collegiate career at the University of Georgia. Things didn't work out there, and that's why he ended up transferring to Ohio State to be a member of the Buckeyes. So this is his backyard. I know things can get kind of funny when you have professional athletes playing in their backyard, but I think that young man comes from a good family. He has his head on his shoulders straight. I don't think he'll fall for too many distractions that can come with any city, or especially a city like Atlanta. I think he would fit well. I think he would fit very well for the culture. As you mentioned, Atlanta is a predominantly African-American city. So having an African-American quarterback, again, we know all about the success that Michael Vick had here, during his time as a member of the Atlanta Falcons. I think Justin Fields is maybe not as elusive of Vick, of course, but I definitely think he's a better passer. Not as Vick came out with that strong arm, but I think Fields will fit in here perfectly. And I actually hope that the Falcons do go ahead and draft him at number 4. Maybe give him a chance to sit for a year. Maybe Matt Ryan has one more year here with the Falcons to kind of groom Fields, and then maybe you part ways with Matt Ryan the following season and let Fields do his thing.
What do you see happening? Because I know Julio Jones maybe has about two more years left for shelf life as far as what he can really produce. Do you flip him to try to get some draft picks, or try to get some veteran players maybe on the defensive end if you can?
To be fair, if I was the GM, and granted this will be a new GM coming in, so he may not want to be fair. He may just look to keep his best chess pieces on the board. But I think, to be fair to Julio Jones, I think maybe it is time for Julio to move on, maybe trade him to a franchise in which he has an opportunity to win. Now, granted, once again, that's not the new GM's job. The new GM's job is not to, provide the player with an opportunity to win elsewhere. He wants the player to win here. I know Julio Jones has voiced on several occasions that he is an Atlanta Falcon. He wants to retire an Atlanta Falcon. This is the team he wants to play for the entirety of his career. He's involved with a lot of other things here in Atlanta. Of course, he's a private investor in QC, the label. He has so many things going on here in the city of Atlanta. But I just honestly, I don't think that the Atlanta Falcons in the next 2 years will be contending for a Super Bowl championship. And that may be Julio's window. His window may be the next 2 years, as you mentioned or so. So, of course, that decision will be up to a GM. I still do believe he is one of the top receivers in the league. Maybe not top 5 anymore, just because he's been injured. Damn sure still top 10 with top 5 talent. But I think it may be time to let Julio go. But I think that should be a decision that both Julio and whoever the new GM is, that they sit down and talk, see the directions in which both of them are looking to move. One moving Julio move his career, and the GM what direction he wants to move the Falcons organization and take it from there. I would keep Julio here, especially if you do draft a quarterback such as Justin Fields, just to even have that leadership here. But it may be time for Julio to go.
Hey, man, you know what? But if he does stay, you got Justin Fields, who I'll call Russell Wilson 2.0, and he does get a chance to play with guys like Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones, and if they can build a better running game, because I like Todd Gurley, but I don't think Todd Gurley is enough to get it done. I think the Falcons could be back on their way, at least, serious playoff contenders, but we'll find out. Really quick before I let you go, speaking of Atlanta, the Hawks, I mean, Trey Young, my goodness gracious. I mean, you talk about Russell Wilson 2.0. I mean, that's Steph Curry 2.0 in my book. I mean, this kid is really burning it up. I know he doesn't get a lot of press because the NBA season is still fairly, new. But what have you seen from Trey Young that's impressed you so far?
Well, the Hawks started off very impressive to start the season. They started off with a record of 1-4, and since have actually been on a 4-game losing streak, and is leaving a lot of us with questions on what do the Hawks need to do. Trey Young has been phenomenal in his 2 previous seasons. This is year 3. A new roster, pretty much. They flipped a lot of players and added a lot of free agents during the offseason. Bogdan Bogdanovic, formerly played for the Sacramento Kings. Danilo Gallinari is here. He's been injured. Rajon Rondo is now here. Tony Snell is now here. Clint Capella has actually been able to get on the court for the first time this season. They acquired him last season, but due to injury, he wasn't able to really get on the court. So the Hawks are still finding their way. But as you mentioned, Trey Young is a phenomenal young talent with phenomenal scoring abilities. I'm looking to see how he facilitates a lot more for his teammates because he has so many other scoring weapons now. We've seen John Collins' game grow a lot. I'm liking what I've seen in the play of DeAndre Hunter and in Cam Reddish. But Trey Young is their leader. He's their all-star. He's their MVP. He's the heart that keeps that body moving. So I'm interested to see exactly where Trey takes his game this season. In his first 5 games, he was averaging damn near 37 points a night. And his last few games has been about 22, 23. It seems like the Hawks are looking to find themselves, but I'm a big fan of that young man. Even being a reporter, I love the energy in which he's brought to Atlanta, the excitement in which he's added to State Farm Arena when fans are and have been allowed into the games. And I think the best is yet to come, of course, for Trey Young. He's still learning. He's still growing out there on the court. Still very young. He's about 23 years old. But phenomenal talent. It's funny you called him Steph. I look at him as being a blend of Steph Curry and Steve Nash. I look at him being a combo of those 2 players. And if he can find a happy medium between those, I think we'll see for the next 15 years a all-star, perennial all-star talent here in Atlanta.
Absolutely, man. Very well said. Very well put. The one and only Terrell Thomas from These Urban Times. Please let everybody know where they can continue to find your great work, sir.
You can check us out, as Nick mentioned, at TheseUrbanTimes.com. You can also follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at These Urban Times. And you can check me out personally at Eldorado2452 on Instagram and Twitter, man. It's a pleasure to sit and chat with you, good sir.
Hey, man, I appreciate your time, man. One of the busiest guys in the media world does a phenomenal job. Thank you so much, and we'll definitely be talking with you soon.
Thank you, man. Peace and blessings. Take care of yourself.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. Coming up on the other side of the break, we were talking about Deshaun Watson. Does he strongly have a case against the Houston Texans, and will he remain in Houston? And if so, for how long? All that and more. And also, I'll be getting into my editorial, my 3 cents, the 2 Americas that we live in. Is it justified? Is it real? Or is it something a figment of our imagination? We'll get into that and more on the other side of the break. You're checking out TMA with Nick Hamilton here on SiriusXM Slam Radio 145.